wrapping up our New Year special, and we are going to be talking about an interesting character in the Old Testament named Samson. So let's already kickstart. I want to ask for a bit of audience participation, so please join me as I ask you to think of this. When you think of Samson, Samson of the Old Testament, what's the word that comes to your mind? Do not overthink. 5 seconds, and later I'm going to ask for a show of hands just to get a sense of what you think about when you hear Samson. And I think this picture is very stereotypical Samson. So let me check. Who among you, when I said Samson, thought of supernatural strength? Raise your hand. Thank you. Who among you, when I said Samson, you thought of long hair? Who among you, when I said Samson, you thought of Delilah? Awesome. For those of you who did not raise your hand, I'm very curious to hear what word you said. So after the service, please let me know. But who among you here, when you thought of Samson, you thought of second chances? The next word that comes to mind when we think of Samson is actually, here was a man, flawed as he is, imperfect as he is, who was still loved by God and was still given more chances. And that is the reason why we're taking the story of Samson as part of our New Year series, because his story gives us hope. Because hopefully we can relate to just how flawed he is as a character, but we can also relate to how faithful our God is to be giving us more chances. And the fact, brothers and sisters, we're here, we're alive, we have a fresh start to today, that means God has yet given us more chances to do the right thing. Again, I will not ask for answers anymore, but please, just so you bring this closer to home, have a think. Was there anything in the past year, or maybe just past week, or past month, that you wish you had done differently? Have a think. Is there anything you wish you had done differently? I don't know who among you are like me and Elmer. We wished during the Christmas holidays, we did not eat like mad. Because whatever weight we lost in 6 months, we gained back in 2 weeks. Terrible. Who among you can relate? I wish I did not pig out over the holidays. And now my Chinese New Year holiday ulit coming up. I know some of you, maybe you said, I wish I spent more time with a loved one. I wish I called home more. And maybe some loved ones have passed on in the very difficult time and you had regrets. Maybe some of you said, the students, we're starting a new year. I wish I did better academically last year. I wish I put in more hard work. Maybe for those in your careers, I wish I took more risks. For those of you in terrible relationships, I wished I called it quits much sooner. I mean, of course, if you're not married, we're not saying you wish that. If you're married, you wish I did more effort to make it right, okay? I don't know what it is, but my hope is that even as we talk about today, and you think about whatever that regret is, I wish I had done differently, be encouraged by this single truth that we will be looking at as we talk about today, and that God, our faithful God, gives us more chances to make good choices. Fine, we're done with 1 month. But guess what? 11 more months to go. More chances to make good choices. Guess what? It's only Sunday. 6 more days this week to make good choices. More chances to make good choices. And to bring this concept alive, we will be looking at the story, as we said, of Samson. And we're going to look at the book of Judges. Quick context. So Judges is one of the earlier books in the Old Testament. So if you're done with the Torah, the first 5 books, you have Joshua, then Judges. Judges is a time when the Israelites already moved from Egypt into the Promised Land. Judges, maybe in our modern day context, you might be thinking about courtroom, in a robe, with a gavel. That's not quite the Judges that we're going to be reading about. The judges of the Old Testament are more like military leaders. Because as you can see, Canaan, or the Promised Land, is still surrounded by many other nations. So there's a lot of warring, and the judges serve as like the military leader for the Israelites. If you want, maybe put it in your bucket list for this year. You want to read the Bible cover to cover, or at least read the book of Judges. You will encounter 12 judges mentioned in the book of Judges. And as you can see in this graphic, the judges were usually coming from different tribes of Israel. Again, to serve more as a military judge, partly also to uphold the laws, to make sure the Israelites were following the Torah, obeying the laws of Yahweh. That's the job description of the judges. You will notice here there are those whose lives were talked a bit more in the Bible, and we call them the major judges, and there are also minor judges, altogether 12 of them. And we're going to read about Samson, who is one of the major judges in the book of Judges. So just a very quick background about what we're going to read about. The life of Samson was narrated in 4 chapters in total. So we'll briefly touch on some of the key points. We'll not be able to read all 4 chapters together, but my hope is that after our conversation today, you'll be so excited, curious to read for yourself all 4 chapters when you get home today. Let's start now on Judges 13. So we're going to look at first the birth of Samson. We'll just read a few verses to give us a flavor of what this book is about. It starts off by saying that again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. Tigas ng ulo ng mga Israelites. Parang how long ago lang did their forefathers saw the deliverance that God has brought upon them, taking them out of slavery from Egypt into the promised land. You would think it'll be happily ever after. Guess what? Not. So it's the Israelites who continue to disobey, continue to do evil in the eyes of the Lord. And as a result, the Lord delivered these people into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. And again, if you just look at the Bible, 40 is such a significant number. 40 years of wandering of the Israelites from Egypt to get to Israel. And now another 40 years that they're under the Philistines because they can't seem to get their lesson. They can't seem to learn the lesson to finally obey God. So this is the context into which Samson was going to enter the picture. Israelites, while they're in the promised land, are actually under Philistine rule because of their own doing. They were disobeying the Lord. A certain man of Zorah named Manoah, so Manoah is Samson's dad, from the clan of the Danites, had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you're going to become pregnant and give birth to a son." Orientate yourself to this map because many times as we go through our conversation today, we'll be going back to this map because then we will see different places where different things happen in Samson's life. But it said that a man from Zorah, so Manoah is coming from that place in the map called Zorah. So just keep that in mind, and that's our starting point of the story. We continue on what happened. So the angel of the Lord appeared to the mother of Samson who, whereas, she was trying to get pregnant, she couldn't, but finally now, the angel of the Lord tells her, "See to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean." And as in the context of the Israelites, very clear sa kanila what food are unclean. Cannot pork, cannot shellfish. So all these are all under falling that bucket of anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Samson, God already knew the purpose for Samson even before he was just in conception stage. He was not even in the womb yet, about to be put in the mother's womb. But already God knew the purpose for Samson, and that is he has to be separated, dedicated to God, and that he will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines who've been oppressing his people for 40 years now. Samson is not just a special man that we say, okay, good for him, he has a purpose, but me, no. Again, if we understand the promise in God's word, all of us are like Samsons. Even before our parents thought of creating us, God knew the purpose that he has for creating you. And let's not lose sight of that. God, when he created us, the fact that we're still here, God still has a purpose for us, through us, in us. And let's keep that in mind because that is the story we will see in Samson. Same, we can relate to that fact that God has a purpose, and even though later we will see he will keep on making bad choices, that will not change the purpose of God. God is so sovereign. He can still make all the many bad choices we make still work together for good to fulfill the purpose that he has. Now, I've highlighted one word here that says Nazirite. If you were here and you listened to the beautiful preaching of Tita Barry about John the Baptist, you might have heard Tita Barry mention that actually John the Baptist was also a Nazirite. So what exactly does it mean to be a Nazirite? You can look more, read for yourself in Numbers 6, verses 1 to 7. But a Nazirite vow is a special vow that Israelites can choose to take to show a special dedication to God. And if somebody decides to be a Nazirite and take a Nazirite vow, there are 3 important things that they're committing to do in order to set themselves apart for God. First, they're not allowed to drink wine or eat grapes or anything of that family. Second, they're not supposed to cut their hair, and we've seen that more explicitly in the passage in Judges. A Nazirite vow, they'll have to grow their hair long, don't let a razor touch their head. And third element of a Nazirite vow is that they cannot touch anything unclean, including dead bodies. And so, for people who've taken a Nazirite vow, even if their family members die, they cannot mourn close to the body. They'll have to mourn from far away because part of the vow is staying from anything unclean, even if it's the dead body of your loved one. Keep this in mind because, again, while Samson did not choose it for himself, usually people opt in and say, I want to take a Nazirite vow. In the case of Samson, God has decided that your son will be a Nazirite. Set him apart. And therefore, for the rest of his life, he will have to observe the Nazirite vow. And later we will see he's been making so many bad choices. Talagang biningguhan niya lahat ng bawal gawin, ginawa niya. But that's sort of like the context. He's supposed to be set apart. He was supposed to have a special purpose to fulfill. He's supposed to be a Nazirite and keep these things. So that's sort of like the main idea of Judges 13, setting the stage how set apart Samson is and the purpose that God has for his life. Let's now jump to Judges 14. If the only way you've learned of Samson is through Sunday school, you'd probably think Delilah is the only woman in Samson's life. But if we read the Bible for ourselves, we realize there's actually one whole chapter dedicated to another woman in Samson's life. He, in fact, married someone else, and that's not Delilah. And that's what Judges 14 is about. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now, get her for me as my wife. Wait lang, Samson, sino ba kausap mo dito? Parents mo, mga alipin mo. Look at the tone. We're getting a bit of flavor of Samson's character. I found somebody, get her for me as my wife. Just so, again, we can situate in the map where this is happening. They were coming from Zorah, and there is Timnah, just by the border. But as you can see, Timnah is already falling into Philistine territory. Why is this such a big deal? We'll get a feel from his parents' reaction. When he said to his parents, get her for me as my wife, he says, his father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. For us who might be more familiar with how Yahweh has given instructions to the Israelites to be set apart. Part of that, if you read Exodus 34, Deuteronomy 7, there'll be guidance around do not intermarry. Do not marry from other lands. Is it because God is being racist? No. But because God knows that all these other neighboring lands worship many false gods. And here he is trying to protect his people because the moment you fall in love with somebody who worships the wrong God, they will turn your heart away from me and that brings you to destruction. So these guardrails that Yahweh was giving his Israelites not to intermarry was done out of love. God is not being killjoy and limiting the choices of the Israelites. God is doing this out of love to protect his Israelites so that they may daily walk in obedience and their hearts will not be turned away from him. And this is why this is the reaction of Samson's parents. You're set apart, Samson. You have taken a Nazirite vow. You're set apart. Talaga bang wala na? Walang-wala na ba talaga among our own people that you might want to marry? But Samson made up his mind. Get that Philistine woman for me. She's the right one for me. Again, if Audric David Miliandison will talk to me in this manner and say, I fell in love with that woman and get her for me. And I said, no, Audric. And he tells me the same thing. I'd probably banish him from home. So you can imagine the sort of attitude that Samson has, right? Disrespectful, very stubborn, but I don't know what's it with the parents, but they eventually consented to do it. But even in these bad choices that Samson is making, did God give up on Samson? We're just in chapter 14. Mahaba pa yung story and God still was with him. And may this be our encouragement. I don't know how terrible those regrets, bad decisions you've made. Guess what? God still loves you. As we were singing, unworthy as we are, bad, terrible choices we've made, just like Samson, God still loves us. And we're going to see this as his life unfolds, as Samson's life unfolds. So Samson went down to Timnah, almost like maybe mamamanhikan, together with his father and mother. As they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. I highlighted 2 words here that demonstrate Samson's choice to compromise. Again, we said going down to Timnah in Philistine territory to look for a wife is a compromise already. But also, they approached the vineyards. Remember the first Nazirite vow? Do not eat grapes. Do not drink wine. What do you see in vineyards? Grapes and winery. So, it didn't say that Samson actually ate along the way. But some scholars would say, is this the only path leading to Timnah? Must you really subject yourself to compromise, tempt yourself, walk along the vineyards to get there? It seemed like there are other paths available. So is this a deliberate choice? Sort of like testing my limits, testing the boundaries? And who among us can relate to that? There's some things we already know. God has put guardrails to keep us safe, but sometimes you just want to push. I'm not sinning technically yet, but I'm just going to push the boundaries a bit more. Even though I sang in Sunday school, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. I'm still looking at things that are compromising. We could be just like Samson, walking in dangerous territory, and then a lion comes. So you might think God could probably say, enough. You've been making bad choices, you stubborn, I'll let you be eaten by the lion. That's not what happened. God still showed up. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father or mother what he had done. Please take note, Samson is strong not because of his long hair. Samson is not strong because he exercised a lot. He's strong and he's able to tear apart the lion. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Fast forward. So that happened, the pamamanhikan happened, he tore apart the lion, nobody knew. So now, fast forward, sometime later, we don't know how long, now it's time to get married. So again, from Zorah, his family went back to Timnah to marry her. And here again, we see Samson choosing na naman to tempt himself. On the way to Timnah, I remember last time I was here, I killed a young lion. Nasa na siya? He turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. It's rotten na. And what did he see? For you to see a swarm of bees and some honey, he must have gotten really close. What is the rule again about Nazirites? Do not come close to anything unclean. Again, Samson was making bad choices. Hindi pa enough na lumapit. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate. And not enough, he even defiled his own parents. Without the parents knowing, "Uy, Mom, Dad, try this really good honey." And they tried without knowing that it has also come from the lion's carcass. So even his parents would have eaten something unclean. That is our main hero for today, ladies and gentlemen. A very flawed character that hopefully we can all relate to. We've made so many bad choices. And Samson continues to make bad choices. And so, party time, wedding party. As is the custom, 30 Philistine men came to be his buddies in the party. What started out as just a friendly dare. So he said, okay, guys, let's play a game. I'm going to give a riddle. After 7 days, if you can guess the riddle, I will give each one of you a fine suit, or like 30 pieces of fine linen clothing. So maybe in today's age, it's like tailored suit for each one of you, 30 Philistine men. But if after 7 days you cannot guess my riddle, each one of you will have to give me one nice piece of linen each. So that's 30 that I get in return. Sounds harmless. So he says, who's game? The Philistine men said, yes, sure, game. And so he said, here's the riddle. What is? Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. Sa atin, siguro we know because we've read the backstory. But these men were like, huh? Hindi naman to si kakang bubuka-buka ka. I'm sorry. For those who grew up in Singapore, you have no clue what I just talked about, but that's a riddle about the scissors. So on the fourth day, these men were so clueless, and they're like, I thought we were joining a party, and now we're about to find ways to give him fine piece of clothing. What craziness is this? So they cornered the wife and said, did you come here to take advantage of us so that your husband will be rich and you're going to make a fool out of us? Tell us, find the answer to the riddle, otherwise we will kill you and your dad. So from a friendly dare, nauwi na sa death threat. Long story short, of course, the wife felt so threatened, and so started pleading with Samson. Samson, tell me, what's the riddle? Satin lang. What's the answer? Diba, I'm your wife naman. But Samson said, I don't even tell my parents. Why should I tell you? So imagine, ugali din ni Samson, sarap batukan, no? Long story short, the wife made drama, like cry throughout the wedding party, because back then they'd celebrate the party week-long. So from day 4, cry, nag, cry, nag. And eventually Samson said, enough. Okay, the answer is, it's the lion and the honey. When I went here, so explain. Long story short, the wife told the men, the answer is the lion and the honey. Before the sundown of the 7th day, the 30 men told Samson, we got the answer to the riddle. It's the lion and the honey. And so Samson, full rage, I felt so, you took advantage of me, you liars, even my wife, you're terrible. So, I mean, that's not really in the Bible, but we can imagine that's probably how he reacted. So fast forward, what happened? Even in Samson's rage, even with Samson being a violent man, the Lord still showed up. We're almost like, Lord, why? Let him suffer, that's his fault. But even in his bad decisions, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him so that he went down to Ashkelon. So they were partying in Timnah. He went all the way to Ashkelon, 45 kilometers away. That's like from here going to Johor Bahru and traveling 12 more kilometers. Nananahimik yung mga tao sa Ashkelon. He struck down, he killed 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Just imagine, we are seeing what kind of character Samson is. God, why did you choose someone like him? God, why did you choose somebody with no self-control, who's just full of rage? And the worst part, you still show up and help him. God, why? But aren't we glad God does that? Flawed as Samson is, God still shows up. Thank you, Lord, because flawed as I am, I know you still show up. Unworthy as I am, bad choices that I made, you still show up. So back to the story, burning with anger. After he delivered his part of the deal, Samson returned to his father's home. So he didn't go to his wife. He just went back home. Yoko na. Game over. Went back to Timnah. And Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had attended him at the feast. Such a tragic love story on their wedding week. This is all the drama that happened thanks to Samson's little dare, thanks to Samson's rage. This is just how messed up his life is. If we think he's hit rock bottom, not yet. Let's keep on reading to Judges 18. So this talks about Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. I'll just do a quick summary of the many things that happened, but please do read it if you can when you get home. Eventually, nung kumalma na si Samson, he said, okay, I think I'm ready to go back to my wife. Let's start all over. Went back to Timnah, but when he got to Timnah, the father-in-law said, you cannot enter. Why? She's my wife. No. I gave her to someone else because I thought you were so mad and you won't like her anymore. So she's married off to someone else. So Samson, ganon. Hanap nga ako ng 300 foxes in Philistine territory. Pinagtay niya in pairs. So 150 pairs of foxes. Put a torch in every tail of the foxes. And the foxes went running like mad and burnt Philistines' grain, vineyards, and orchards. Can you just imagine what kind of character again Samson is? Rage, violent, no self-control. And so, in retaliation, the Philistines, you burnt our land, we're gonna burn your father-in-law and his whole household and your ex-wife. our choices, Samson's choices, have consequences. Samson's bad choices cost the life of almost like an innocent family. Don't think that when we make bad choices, we're the only ones getting affected. Our choices have consequences. And so that was the consequence of his burning the foxes. Of course, hindi papatalo si Samson. So there, he attacked and slaughtered many Philistines. How many? The Bible didn't say. But after, he was so lonely, he didn't know where to go anymore. He stayed in a rock in the cave of Etam. Now the Philistines went to his family, went to Israel territory and said, "Give us Samson or else this is war." So the Israelites were like, "Wala kaming kinalaman dito. Sige, we'll give you Samson." So they found Samson. Samson naman, anong pinaggagawa mo? Pati kami madadamay. So the Philistines just asked that we hand you to them. So Samson said, "Okay, fine. Get me from this cave, tie me, but just promise me you won't kill me yourself." Okay, so fine. So even his own people turned on him as a consequence of his actions. So the people of Judah tied him up and handed him over to the Philistines. But again, despite ito naman all this drama is because of Samson's bad choices, diba? Why don't just God leave him and let you suffer your consequences? Poor you, oh well, too bad. But no, even in this moment, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. And with the fresh jawbone of a donkey, Samson strikes down 1,000 men. This is like the most outrageous action scene I've ever seen. Even if you're fans of Jackie Chan, you know how Jackie Chan would have like 50 men all with guns and all he has is like karate, whatever, he still kills everybody. Or Cardo Dalisay for Filipino reference. But this one, not 50, 1,000 Philistine men. He kills all of them and his only weapon was a fresh jawbone of a donkey. Is it because he has long hair? No, it's because supernaturally the Spirit of the Lord showed up and helped him. And then, finally, kung ikaw ba naman pumatay single-handedly ng 1,000 people, it's almost absurd when you think about it. He was very thirsty, and he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servant this victory." Akala mo, thanksgiving prayer na, "Lord, you're good." No, ang kasunod, sarcasm, "Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Seriously, Samson, that's all you have to say? But the Lord opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. Samson drank, and his strength returned, and he revived. If I were God, ang kapal ng mukha mo, Samson, yun lang yung thank you mo sa akin. Hindi ka man lang mag-burn ng offering, tapos magrereklamo ka pang uhaw na uhaw ka, ay bahala ka dyan. But God, again, I don't know, God, why do you do this? Why are you just so gracious? Uhaw ka ba, anak? Okay, let me open up a hollow here and give you a chance to regain your strength. And we would have thought that, Samson, you're a bad man. You're violent. You have no self-control. You're sarcastic. You're disrespectful to your parents. But God had a purpose for him. And did all his negative traits disqualify Samson from fulfilling the purpose God has for him? No. Samson, despite all this, Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So I don't know about you, but I think this is coming out really, really strong. That God gave Samson more chances to make good choices. He was not disqualified after the second bad choice. God gives Samson more chances to make good choices. And again, don't miss it, brothers and sisters. The fact that you're hearing this, the fact that you're here, God is reminding you, anak, more chances. You've seen how faithful I was with Samson, kahit napaka-terrible niya. More chances, anak. More chances to make good choices. But again, this is not to say we abuse God and say, more chances naman pala. So, I can just make so many mistakes like what Samson did and still be okay. God will still take me back. I hope that's not your takeaway from what we're hearing about today. We do not abuse God's grace. If we truly love God, we don't want to hurt. We don't want to hurt Him. We want to make choices to honor Him. But even in the times we fail Him, God does not give up on us. I hope that's how we're reading the life of Samson. Final chapter, Judges 16. Now, back in Zorah, he was leading the Israelites. He's a judge. I don't know what he's doing, what his business is, but he traveled all the way down to Gaza. And he went there to see a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. Baka naman nag-card sila. We don't know. So the people of Gaza were told, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. So abang, there's no way he can escape. We've closed the city gates. If he tries to escape, we're going to kill him. And at dawn, we'll kill him. But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the two posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. Just try to imagine what happened. The gates, I'm pretty sure they had really strong gates, right, to protect the city. In the time of warring nations, your city is your first line of defense. Your city gate is your first line of defense. So they probably put the strongest, mechanism, hinges to hold the gate together. But Samson just loosened it up. And for more dramatic impact, pwede namang he just opened the gate and ran away. No. After he torn it apart, he lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Either, Samson, you're really just proud, like show off ka lang ng strength mo, or maybe there's something more going on here. So again, if you look at from Gaza, he went up the hill. We don't know how far away, but the hill then would face Hebron. It could be a statement to say, Israelites, look up. Do you recognize these gates? Philistine gates have been broken down. That means we have victory. That's almost like a symbolic thing, I think, that Samson was doing here. It's not enough that he had the personal victory, but he knew his purpose was to be called apart, set apart, lead the Israelites for victory over the Philistines. And maybe that's why he went all the trouble of climbing up the hill so that the people, the Israelites, can see, oh wow, Philistine gate, is this for real? We've broken down their strongholds. That could be the most logical explanation why Samson did this. But scholars would also say, likely, this is also a foreshadowing of a very similar scene that we will encounter in the New Testament. Somebody who's carried the cross up the hill to declare victory. Does that ring a bell? Jesus has done even greater. Samson is flawed, but God could use him to declare victory. But here an innocent man, Jesus, died on the cross, and every time we look at the cross, may we still be in awe of what that truly means. And that means we have victory. Jesus has won the victory over the gates of hell. Jesus has won victory over sin and death. This is a foreshadowing of the victory, the even greater victory that we now experience because of Jesus' work on the cross. I wish the story ended here and we'd all be celebrating. Thank you, God, for using Samson. In the end, he fulfilled his purpose. But if we read some more, he falls in love with Delilah. We can fast forward because we know what happens here. Same thing, the Philistines went to Delilah and said, can you find out the secret to his supernatural strength? And we will give you each a big amount of money if you find out. Samson naman, di ka na natuto. You fall in love with the girl gets the secret from you. It's a recurring pattern of sin in his life. And we know how this story ends. Samson tries not to tell the secret, but same, nag, cry, you don't really love me. Eventually, after 4 tries, Samson finally says, if you cut my hair, I will lose all of my strength. And so finally, Delilah did it, called on the Philistines and the Lord. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he woke from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. He was strong not because his hair was cut, but because, one, he's pretty much abandoned his Nazirite vow completely. The third X, he let the razor touch his head. But it's really because the Spirit of the Lord was no longer upon him. As a result, the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, took him down to Gaza, bronze shackles. Just a few verses ago, we looked at victory. But because of the really wrong choices Samson made, is this really how you want to end your life? Brothers and sisters, may that also just be a reminder. When we walk with obedience, when we walk in Christ, we have victory. But you have the choice, like Samson, to choose to wander away, go back to your recurring patterns of sin, and end up suffering the consequences of your wrong choices. And we're almost like, willing to say, God, finally, good on Samson. He deserved it. Okay lang, Lord, iwan mo na siya. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. He deserves to die. But even in his dying breath, while the Philistines were making so much fun of him, in his dying breath, he stood with the pillars, holding the pillars that were holding the venue where all the rulers, men and women, rulers of the Philistines were there. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more. If I were God, he could say, sorry, Samson, you've had enough chances. No more, game over. And he said, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might and came down, and down came the temple of the rulers and all the people in it. Even in his dying breath, even in his disobedience, the sovereign God still fulfilled the purpose that he had in the life of Samson, and thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. What now, brothers and sisters? Ganun pala ka-action-packed yung buhay ni Samson. He's not just about pala long hair and Delilah. There was so much more. But this is not a story of Samson. This is a story of God's faithfulness. This is the story of God's mercy. A God who did not give up on Samson, even with the many, 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 many wrong choices he's made. And the God who's brought you to this place, brothers and sisters, is not giving up on you. Is not giving up on me. Despite the many, 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 many wrong choices that I've made, that you might have made. But again, this is not a license to just keep on sinning. God will not give up on me naman pala. There are consequences to our actions. There are consequences to our choices. So our challenge is make good choices every day. Can I just try to wrap up the series we've had this January? Make a good choice to serve humbly before God, like what Tita Manju encouraged us the first Sunday. Stop thinking about what's convenient for me, what's good for me. Make good choice to humble ourselves and be like Jesus and almost like wash the feet of the people He sent us. Not literally, but how can I serve the people that He's put in my life? Make good choices. Brother Elmer shared, make good choices to come before the Lord. Enjoy His sweet presence every day. Now, we don't have to sacrifice, but have we lost the sense of awe of being in God's presence? Do you take your quiet time seriously, consistently? Make good choice to enjoy the sweet presence of God. Tita Barry said, make a good choice to be a Marites. Make a good choice not to keep the good news in. Make a good choice to share the love of Jesus to an unbelieving friend or colleague or neighbor. Or Pastor Romel said, make a good choice to let your life story reflect God's glories. The way you show up at school, at work, the way you treat your wife, your husband, your children, reflecting God's glory. Let's make good choices every day. Because that's the least we can do to honor the God who gives us more chances to make good choices.